Now, this just blows people like Teddy out of the water. Okay, people that just sit up there and just spread all these lies. And then they say Trump didn't know anything about it. This is at least 140 people that served in the first Trump administration that wrote Project 2025. Okay, so what I find interesting is all these people around Trump helped write Project 2025. But then they say Trump didn't know anything about it. But then they say Trump is smart enough to run a $30 trillion economy and run the country, negotiate trade deals with other countries. He's smart enough to do all this, but he can't see people, 140 people around him, even people who served in this first administration. He knows nothing about a 922-page document, and he's spoken at the Heritage Foundation's conferences before. Flew on a plane with Kevin Roberts, was sitting next to Kevin Roberts, took a picture. Look at this here. This is from the Heritage Foundation's website. The Trump administration embraces Heritage Foundation policy recommendations. Look at the date. This is from January 23rd, 2018. This is in the first Trump administration. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Look at this picture here. President Donald Trump at the Heritage Foundation's 2017 President's Club meeting. Oh, but he didn't know anything. 1 year after taking office. Now, keep in mind, this article is from January 23rd, 2018. Which website is this at? Heritage.org. What's Heritage.org? The official website of the Heritage Foundation. What's the Heritage Foundation? The organization that put out Project 2025. And people said Trump didn't know anything about it. 1 year after taking office, Donald Trump and his administration have embraced nearly 2/3 of the policy recommendations from the Heritage Foundation's mandate for leadership. But this is in 2018, because this is what the Trump administration, this is what Donald Trump and the Trump administration did in the first year of his first administration. They adopted 2/3 of the 334 policy recommendations in Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise from the Heritage Foundation. The Mandate for Leadership series includes 5 individual publications totaling approximately 334 unique policy recommendations. Analysis completed by Heritage determined that 64% of the policy prescriptions were included in Trump's budget, implemented through regulatory guidance, or under consideration for action in accordance with the Heritage Foundation's original proposals. People, this is in 2017. Okay? Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise, Project 2025, is the latest version of Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise. It's not something just totally new that we don't know where it came from. It just fell out of the sky. No. The Heritage Foundation has been putting this policy platform in writing going back to 1981, each election cycle. Not only that, when you research it, when they first released it, it became a New York Times bestseller in 1981. Ronald Reagan gave a copy of Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise, to all of his cabinet members. Do you know how long conservatives, Republicans have been planning this? And so many of our people are still dumbfounded and trying to figure out how did all this happen? Where are you getting your information from? I was warning our people about this. Where are you getting your information from that you don't know this? How's it that you know the boots on the ground dance and you do the Stephanie Mills TikTok challenge? I never knew love like this before, but you don't know this. You know, Roland Martin made fun of me because I didn't watch the movie Sinners. I don't watch a lot of movies. I do research. I don't have time. I don't spend time going to the movie. The last movie I saw at the theater was Wakanda Forever, Black Panther. That was like 2022. I don't watch a lot of scripted TV. You already know. You watch the African History Network show. You already know. I don't watch a lot of scripted TV. I don't spend time. I don't have time to invest 2.5 hours watching fiction. I'm doing research to warn Black people about what the hell is going on. Now I did a broadcast November 3rd, 2024, 2 days before the 2024 presidential election, breaking all this stuff down, warning people what was going to happen, why we needed to vote for Kamala Harris to stop Donald Trump. Everything I said was going to happen has happened. Analysis completed by Heritage determined that 64% of the policy prescriptions were included in the Trump budget, implemented through regulatory guidance or under consideration for action in accordance with the Heritage Foundation's original proposals. Here you can view the list of all 334 policy recommendations and their status at the 1-year mark. Now, this is talking about 2017 under the first Trump administration. Then, to add insult to injury and just prove how people were asleep at the wheel, there's this clip from Fox Business News. This clip is from 2018.
Year in office, and
this clip is from 2018, and it deals with the policies that the first Trump administration implemented from Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise. Let me see. Let's go to here. I'm gonna show this because I showed it before in my November 3rd broadcast. I showed this. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna refresh the screen right quick. Stand by, everybody. I'm gonna refresh the screen. I'm gonna play this video for you. This is from Fox Business News. And it's from 8 years ago. It's from January 25th, 2018. This is Tommy Binion discusses how Trump has embraced 64% of heritage policy recommendation on Fox Business, the Fox Business channel. This is from January 25th, 2018. And you had all these dumbasses saying Trump didn't know anything about Project 2025. But Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise, Project 2025, that's just the latest version of Mandate for Leadership. What Trump implemented in his first administration.
Year in office, and Ronald Reagan did in his first year with respect to conservative agenda. In fact, the conservative group made this determination based on its own agenda, policy recommendations of which President Trump embraced 64%. President Reagan embraced only 49%. So has President Trump become the new gold standard of conservatism? With me now to discuss matters, Jesse Otto, Washington Times columnist, also National Coalition for Trump advisor, and Tommy Binion, Heritage Foundation, Congressional and Executive Branch Relations Director. Tommy, so Heritage Foundation has the mandate for leadership, 5 individual publications, 334 unique policy recommendations, and President Trump took up 64% of them in his budget. Does that make him the new gold standard of conservatism?
Absolutely. President Trump is a conservative president. And also, this analysis shows that he's a very active president. He's adopted many of these recommendations and put forward and accomplished many of them. It's things like the Paris Climate Change Agreement. It's things like repealing Barack Obama's net neutrality regulations. Those types of things, these are sort of under-the-radar accomplishments, under-the-radar policies that he's pursued. And yes, they're conservative, and yes, they're good for the country, and this analysis gives him credit for that.
You know, Madison, and a lot of the things that we have on the list there really angered the left progressives in the mainstream media, getting out of the Paris Climate Accord, repealing net neutrality. President Trump took a lot of heat of those.
Yeah, you know, Charles, what an incredible year for conservatives, and I imagine that we're going to have 3 to 7 more incredible years under President Trump. You know, a lot of people looking back were on the fence, conservatives specifically, concerned about some of the things that he said, but you cannot judge him by what he said, but by what he does. He's always been someone that planned to back up his words with actions. That's exactly what he did. We look at the Supreme Court. That's why a lot of people end up coming over the fence, jumping to the side and voting for him. And when he's talking about making an impact long term, let's look at the federal district courts and let's look at the federal appellate courts. I mean, this is places where he's going to have an effect long after his presidency is over in the world of conservatism.
Madison, do you think then that ultimately people should say, hey, forget about the rhetoric and the occasional tweet that may or be distasteful, if you will, and look at the achievements and the direction we're going? That ultimately is what matters?
Oh, absolutely, because guess what? These words and silly tweets that people agree or disagree on and bicker about aren't going to affect people's lives, but these policies and these decisions that he's making in the Oval Office are going to affect our lives not only now, like I said, but for decades to come. And so I think that's what people need to keep in mind. And I think that's what they will keep in mind when we go to the midterms in 2018 and we look at back, you know, to 2016. They were on the fence hoping this would happen, and it did happen. So I think they're going to do that in 2018 and 2020 as well.
Tommy, I know it's a badge of honor, but some people may say approximately 70 former Heritage employees either work for the Trump transition team or are now part of the administration. Is that too much influence by one particular organization?
No, I don't think so. That's absolutely a strategy of the Heritage Foundation to better the country. The individuals, the researchers, the smart people here at the Heritage Foundation have a passion for this country. They're patriots, and they went to work in the administration to make the country a better place. I don't think that's a knock against Heritage or too much influence at all. And yes, it's those 70 individuals and the president and the rest of his administration that enacted and adopted these policies. Right. And we believe the reason we work here, the reason we work so hard on these policies is because we believe that ultimately they're going to deliver a better America for the American people.
Quickly, before I let you go, Tommy, is there one of the items that ranks high that wasn't adopted that you'd like to still see implemented? I know there's a lot of them, but the one that maybe sticks out the most to you.
Repeal and replace Obamacare. It's got to go. Health care is too expensive. That's on the Congress. The president will lean on it,
sure,
but it's got to happen.
Thank you both.
So that was okay. So that was from January 2018. Fox. Okay, and hey, I warned you what was going to happen. I want to go to this right quick. Okay, testing. You should be able to hear me. There was a piece from Ali Velshi's show on MSNBC, Velshi. And he did this September 24th, 2023, right around there. Okay, let me show you this here. Now, I saw this segment when he did it. This was the first segment that I saw, like complete segment that put everything together for Project 2025. And I just posted this a few days. I've posted it a few times. I just posted this January 30th, 2026 on my Facebook fan page, the African History Network. So this is an article from yahoo.com. The name of the article is "They're Already Putting This Plan into Action. The Chilling Truth About Project 2025's Radical Agenda." They're already putting this into action. The chilling truth about Project 2025's radical agenda. This is from, is actually an article from NBC News.com, I think it was, September 24th, 2023. And in the piece, it deals with how Ali Velshi on MSNBC broke down Project 2025 and how the Heritage Foundation have been putting out their policy playbook called Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise since 1980 or 1981. Project 2025 is the latest version of Mandate for Leadership. And if we look here, he cited this article here from the Washington Post. And this article from the Washington Post is from 1980. It's called The Heritage Report, Getting the Government Right with Reagan. Hold on. Let me pull this up. I want you to see how long they've been plotting this. So this is from the Washington Post. Back when it wasn't controlled by billionaires like Jeff Bezos. I'm going to bring up this article here from Washington Post. Let's look at this article. So Project 2025 was like 45 years in the making, or 43 years in the making, because it came out in 2023. The Heritage Report, Getting the Government Right with Reagan. The Heritage Report, Getting the Government Right with Reagan. November 18th, 1980. That's when this article came out from the Washington Post. This article is over more than 45 years old. Okay. So this shows you how long they've been planning this. We have to ask ourselves, as Black people, as African Americans, people of African descent, we have to ask ourselves, or you have to ask yourself, why didn't you know this? Because I knew it, and I was warning Black people about it. You can go back and look. I was putting out videos about Project 2025 in early 2024. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, why didn't we know this? And it's in writing. The Heritage Foundation, a conservative Washington research group, today proposed an action plan for swinging the government to the right as fast as possible. In an extraordinarily detailed 3,000-page report, it recommended that President-elect Ronald Reagan abolish the Department of Energy by 1982. Well, let me close this out. Abolish the Department of Energy by 1982. Revoke all executive orders requiring affirmative action for minorities in government and hiring and contracting. Okay. Now, Trump did that on his second day in office because that was part of Project 2025. Okay. Trump did that on his second day in office. He revoked Executive Order 11246, which is affirmative action in government contracting. And that was part of Project 2025. The attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of Project 2025. Reversing the racial justice and social justice initiatives that took place after the death of George Floyd, May 25th, 2020, that's part of Project 2025. Strip the Office of Surface Mining of most of its powers in order to make an example of the agency, etc. Return most functions of the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, to the states or other governments. The Trump administration is destroying the Environmental Protection Agency. Okay? They backed out of lawsuits like the lawsuit against Cancer Alley in New Orleans that is polluting the environment. Okay? And the Cancer Alley is about 80% African American. All right, but this deals with this. Okay, so it goes through and talks about these different policies here. All right, read this article. All this is 45 years in the making. The Heritage Report, Getting the Government Right with Reagan, November 15th, 1980. All right, now, let's go back and look at this fact checking right quick. Trump repeated his claim that Somali residents of Minnesota had committed $19 billion in fraud, saying, quote, there's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. We have all the information, and in actuality, the number is much higher than that, end quote, he said. It's possible this $19 billion figure will be proven true, but nothing close to that figure has been proven to date. In December, a federal prosecutor, Joseph Thompson, claimed that half or more of $18 billion in federal funds billed by 14 Medicaid services in Minnesota deemed at high risk for fraud. Okay, half or more of $18 billion in federal funds billed by 14 Medicaid services in Minnesota deemed at high risk for fraud, and now under a third-party audit ordered by Governor Tim Walz might be fraudulent. Okay, half or more of $18 billion. Donald Trump said is $19 billion. That's fraudulent, and he attributed all of that to Somalis. But $9 billion is not $19 billion, Thompson said. I'm saying Thompson didn't say all of the possible fraud was committed by Somali residents, and Governor Tim Walz's administration challenged Thompson's claim. $9 billion is not $19 billion. And Joseph Thompson, federal prosecutor Joseph Thompson, didn't say that Somalis committed all of the $9 billion fraud. One Governor Walz's administration official said in December that they had, quote, evidence of tens of millions of dollars in fraud to this point, end quote, not $9 billion. Governor Walz himself said, quote, you should be equally outraged about $1 or whatever that number is, but they're using that number without the proof behind it, end quote. And federal prosecutor Joseph Thompson, who resigned in January 2026 amid tension with the Trump administration over its handling of an ICE officer fatally shooting Renee Good, made clear at the time that the, quote, half or more, end quote, comment was an early estimate rather than a firm number. Okay, so read the rest of this. And then Trump gets into election fraud and all this stuff, just nonsense. All right. So check that out. Okay. I want to go because we're running out of time here. We're going longer than I thought we were. Probably do 2 hours. I want to play at least an excerpt of the broadcast of the press conference that the Congressional Black Caucus did on Wednesday, February 11th, dealing with the impact of the harmful policies of the Trump administration on the African-American community. Okay. All right. Welcome back to the African History Network show. We're broadcasting live here on our social media platforms. Follow me on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. My personal page, Michael Imhotep, our Twitter, Twitch. We're on Twitch now as well, the African History Network. So you can follow me there. And we know that Trump is dealing with record low approvals, record low approval rating between 36% and 39%, depending upon which poll you look at. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay, let's go to the press conference that was held by the Congressional Black Caucus, dealing with Trump's harmful policies, okay? Because I want to center this whole discussion around the African-American community. Other people can watch and learn, but I want to center this around the African-American community.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus for the 119th session of Congress and proud representative of New York's 9th Congressional District, located in Brooklyn, New York. We are joined here today by Maya Wiley of the Leadership Conference, Mark Marial of the National Urban League, Derek Johnson of the NAACP, Reverend Siobhan Arline Bradley of the National Council of Negro Women, Melanie Campbell of the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, and Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant of the National Pan-Hellenic Council of Presidents. I want to thank all of the leadership for joining us today and for partnership with the Congressional Black Caucus. It is critical that we gather in this moment, given what we are up against. Across the country, our communities are voicing deep concerns about the threat posed by Donald Trump and his allies. Today, our democracy, economic opportunity, fundamental freedoms, and access to the ballot box are under attack. Over the past year, we have seen a concerted effort to roll back civil rights, undermine voting access, dismantle social programs, and concentrate power in the hands of the wealthy and well-connected at the expense of our communities. From weakening the Voting Rights Act and advancing voter suppression measures like the SAVE Act, to politicizing the courts and sowing fear and division through actions cause real and disproportionate harm to black communities. Instead of working to lower the rising cost of living and create real pathways to economic security and advancement, the Trump administration has been working overtime to take our country in the wrong direction. Today, under Trump's historically unpopular leadership, black unemployment has reached a staggering 8.3%, the highest since the height of the COVID pandemic, undoing progress made through intentional investment and inclusive economic growth. Attacks on the Affordable Care Act continue to threaten health care for millions in our communities, putting life-saving coverage and access to prescription medications at risk. And the ongoing assault on the diversity of our nation, from the federal workforce and black-led institutions to journalists, educators, and local leaders, represents a direct attack on the values of our democracy. Underlying it all is a clear truth. Donald Trump and Republicans understand that their path to maintaining the majority depends on weakening the collective voting strength of black communities through racially gerrymandering maps ahead of the upcoming midterm elections. Right now, they are relying on the Supreme Court in the Louisiana v. Calais case to clear the path for their plan to cement one-party control in Washington. But let me be clear, we will not waver. The Congressional Black Caucus will not be silent. We will not back down, nor will our partners in the Divine Nine and civil rights community. Together, we are working to legislate, organize, mobilize our communities against these efforts because too much is at stake for our communities. And having said that, it's my honor to bring to the podium at this time the leader of the Democratic Caucus, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
Good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking my good friend and the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, for her continued leadership and partnership. Let me acknowledge all of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including, of course, our immediate past chairs, Congressman Stephen Horsford and Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. So thankful to be present with these distinguished civil rights leaders, leaders of the Divine Nine, as well as faith leaders and people from all throughout the country who are champions of the African American community, champions of the principles that make this country at its best a country of liberty and justice for all. Donald Trump once asked Black America the question, what the hell do you have to lose? The answer is everything under his administration. We know that under the Trump administration, civil rights is under attack, voting rights is under attack, reproductive rights under attack, racial justice under attack, social justice under attack, economic justice under attack, black entrepreneurship under attack. What the hell does Black America have to lose under Donald Trump? The answer clearly is everything. Black America is under attack. The United States of America has been under attack by the failed policies of a failed president and sycophants in the Republican Party who continue to act like nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. Under the Trump administration, the black unemployment rate is up, the black home ownership rate is down, and health care is being ripped away from millions of Americans, disproportionately impacting black and brown communities and lower income white communities throughout the nation. But we're here as members of the Congressional Black Caucus, civil rights leadership, faith leaders, leaders of the Divine Nine organizations, standing together to make clear that we're not going to step back, we're here to fight back. Right. And to make sure we protect the interests of black America and all of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And as John Lewis would often encourage us to do, we will continue to show up. We will continue to stand up. We will continue to speak up. We'll summon that character, that courage, that conviction of those upon whose shoulders in this Black History Month we proudly stand upon. And together we're going to end this national nightmare and continue this country's march toward a more perfect union. God bless you all. And now it's my honor to introduce my big sister in the Congress, a classmate of mine, past chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, an incredible champion for her communities and all communities. I'm Hakeem Jeffries, and I approve this message on behalf of Joyce Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I am Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, representing Ohio's 3rd Congressional District and proud to be Chair Emerita of the Congressional Black Caucus. Today, we members of the Congressional Black Caucus stand united with our civil rights leaders, with our Divine Nine, business leaders, and faith leaders. We are here to honor our legacy and to move forward to fight for justice, equity, and equality for Black Americans and for all Americans. But just as Black history is American history, justice for Black Americans is justice for all Americans. For more than 55 years, the Congressional Black Caucus has fought to empower the more than 120 million Americans and 20 million Black Americans that we represent. Our mission has been steadfast and undeterred to uplift and empower the Black community. The task is more urgent now than ever before. We have navigated a struggling economy, attacks on our democracy, and one unprecedented crisis after another, and yet we still stand. Today we stand against the calculated campaign led by Donald Trump and his allies to dismantle, to gut, to suffocate voting rights and civil rights and all of our other protections. We stand against their efforts to whitewash and purge our history from classrooms, from books, from institutions and public life. We sound the alarm as our democracy faces relentless, coordinated assaults from a Trump administration that has weaponized more than the 150 executive orders against Black communities. We sound the alarm against an administration that continues to celebrate racial tropes, most recently against the nation's first Black president and our First Lady. Donald Trump and his movement are a clear and present danger to our democracy, to the rule of law, and to the very humanity of this nation. In the face of this danger, the Congressional Black Caucus will not flinch, will not fold, will not retreat, because we fight for the American people. We will continue to be the conscience of the Congress and this country, fighting for authoritarian, bigotry, and weaponizing of the government against our people. We will fight against those things. The Congressional Black Caucus has delivered historical victories, from passing the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act to making lynching a federal crime, to advancing police reform, expanding health care as we just recently did under the leadership of Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and for securing historic investments in Black-owned businesses and HBCUs. We continue to defend the Voting Rights Act through the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, because the ballot is the foundation of freedom. Dr. Martin Luther King reminds us, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And Fannie Lou Hamer declared, nobody's free until everyone is free. Those words continue to guide us as our nation approaches its 250th birthday, and we mark 100 years of celebrating Black history. The Congressional Black Caucus is unbought, unbossed, unafraid, and Black leadership will continue to shape America's story and her future. And yes, I'm Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, and I approve this message. Now I have the distinct pleasure to ask the President and CEO of the National Urban League to come forth, Mark Morial.
Thank you very much. First of all, good morning. We just spent about an hour, leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus and the leadership of the nation's leading civil rights organizations, in conversation and celebration, because this is Black History Month. And I want the members of the media to know that this is the 100th anniversary of the Black History Month celebration. And even though for the first time in 50 years there is no official celebration of Black History Month at the White House, there is an official celebration here in the Capitol that we just had. Number two, I could spend the next 15 minutes telling you how reprehensible and how offensive the actions in depicting Barack and Michelle Obama were last week. I could spend 15 minutes or an hour sharing with you how the pictures from Minneapolis and Los Angeles and other communities of sworn law enforcement officers engaging in abject brutality and constitutional violations. But what I want to spend the next minute or two sharing with you is a peek at the analysis that we've done on the first year of the Trump economic policies insofar as Black America and the nation are concerned. What we've seen is 1 year of chaos and confusion. We've seen 1 year of a bait and switch strategy that said, number one, if we impose tariffs, it will yield a manufacturing nirvana for the American people. Instead, what we see is that yesterday Ford Motor Company, in releasing its earnings, had one of its worst earnings cycles in recent memory. What we see is tens of thousands, going on 100,000 manufacturing jobs lost this year when we were promised a manufacturing nirvana because of these failed tariff policies. What we see is a tariff tax that is costing the average American family $1,000 a year extra in expenses due to the impact it is having on the things that they buy. And then number two, what these policies have yielded, as referenced before, is an wholesale attack on the hard-fought work of the civil rights movement going back to 1954 that opened the doors for black Americans and women and other people to ascend to the highest levels in American life. Instead of embracing the idea that I am a president for all people, what we have seen is a campaign to divide us. To divide us by race, to divide us by gender, to divide us by red state, blue state, sectionalism, and you can imagine it. Think about the idea that any president of the United States would not invite every governor to the White House. And I applaud the governors for saying, no, we won't go unless we can all go. These have been policies that have divided this nation and hurt our economy. And then finally, the big ugly bill has cost us investments in schools and children and health care, and it is only just beginning. So on this Black History Month, we're here to say these economic policies are damaging Black America, raising our unemployment. But as has been said, we stand united to bend this curve. And we commit today to fight and fight and fight until hell freezes over. And then I can assure you we will fight on the ice. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and I was told to also know that there's votes coming, so some of the members are going to have to leave. Melanie Campbell, head of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and convener of the Black Women's Roundtable. It is an honor to stand here with the conscience of the Congress and with my civil rights colleagues, Divine Nine, faith leaders, and others, as a profound reminder. This is a profound reminder of what Black history and collective leadership looks like in action. This year, has been stated, marks the 100th anniversary of the celebration of Black history. We honor this century by acknowledging that we are not just the inheritors of history, we are the architects of it. On May 5th, 2026, the National Coalition will celebrate our 50th anniversary of our founding as an organization.
So, Melanie Campbell speaking, and that was Mark Morial, who's the president of the National Urban League. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a minute. I just want to, so this is the press conference the Congressional Black Caucus did on Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, dealing with the impact of the Trump administration's policies on Black Americans. The impact of the Trump administration's policies on Black Americans, okay? We're going to come back to that in just a second here. For the sake of time, because I don't think I'm going to play all of this, but it's roughly 46 minutes. I want to show you, I pulled up information from the State of Black America report from the National Urban League. And I want to show that to you so you can read that. And there's some articles about that from afro.com and also from National Public Radio that I'm looking at here. But if you go to stateofblackamerica.org or just Google State of Black America or NUL.org, National Urban League's website. This is the PDF of the State of Black America report. And I can't remember, this is the executive summary. This is the executive summary that I pulled up. Okay. So you can read through this. And it tells you, it deals with how Trump's policies are devastating the African American community. State of Black America, Democracy, Civil Rights, and Progress Under Attack. Table of Contents. The Erasure of Equity from the Inside Out. So it goes through and deals with all these policies. What we stand to lose. How the war on woke is fueling systemic oppression and the assault on civil rights. This deals with the radicalization of the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice under Harmeet Dillon, who's heads up the Civil Rights Division. Okay, Harmeet Dillon deals with all of that. How digital censorship and misinformation undermine democracy. Okay, so read the rest of this here. That's at the National Urban League's website. Okay, I'm going to go back to the press conference from the Congressional Black Caucus from Wednesday, February 11th, 2026.
And others, as a profound reminder, this is a profound reminder of what Black history and collective leadership looks like in action. This year, has been stated, marks the 100th anniversary of the celebration of Black history. We honor this century by acknowledging that we are not just the inheritors of history, we are the architects of it. On May 5th, 2026, the National Coalition will celebrate our 50th anniversary of our founding as an organization, which is a Black history milestone. Our mission is clear. With my colleagues, we will continue to fight for our rights, fight for our freedoms, fight for justice, safety, protect democracy, and opportunities to not only survive, but for our people to thrive. We are at a critical juncture for our democracy. When the executive branch of the federal government has been taken over by an authoritarian and fascist regime, we must fight to have a federal government that functions with integrity where no one is above the law. We must have robust checks and balances where all three levels of government serve we the people and honor their oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. We must have a federal government that protects our civil rights and the Congress that will immediately pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And at the end, I have more to say. I'm just going to skip that because I know we got a lot been said. And have colleagues, we pause to celebrate Black history that is American history. Let us never forget to remember our ancestors and predecessors who fought and died for us to be free. We have the power. We have the power. We have the vote, and we will remember those who think they can erase Black history. We built this country. We're not going nowhere. Take note. Watch 2026 election and see what we do. Thank you.
Right. Let me now ask Derek Johnson, Reverend Siobhan Arline Bradley, and Maya Wiley to come and speak in that order.
Thank you, Chairwoman Clark, for putting this together. At NACP, we stand in solidarity with all of the organizations here today. 100 years of Black history. History is something that we should learn from, not repeat. 100 years ago, we witnessed the decline of this country through our stock market crash in 1929, the erosion of civil rights, no protections, regulatory industries causing harm in our food, our water, our air, and here we are 100 years later about to repeat that same problem. For the NAACP, it's important for us to stand with black institutions because we all know collectively we would never suppress our identity for political expediency or anyone else's comfort. In this moment in our democracy, black folks are the most democratic citizens of this country. And so we stand here to advocate for a constitution that affords equal protection under the law. We stand here advocating to ensure that all Americans are provided a fair wage for their work. We stand here to ensure that the democracy survive an administration that is seeking to attack it. So thank you to the CBC. Thank you to all the partners for making sure this moment is recognized. Black history is American history. So let's celebrate American history through the lens of black people. Peace and power.
Thank you to our leadership here for the opportunity to share on Black History Month celebration here on the Hill. Mary McLeod Bethune founded NCNW 90 years ago because she believed that informed and organized black women and black families could shape our future. And Dorothy Irene Height, the only woman who stood as a standing figure of the Big Six, fought for decades to ensure that laws would be written to contend with the obstacles from years to come. Black women have been the backbone of our families and communities, and it is up to us to stand in the gap to exercise our collective power. And that is why today, NCNW is here excited to share with you that we will partner with the Black Women Leadership Collective to register 1 million new black voters in 2026. Our plan is simple: organize, mobilize, educate, and activate for this country's most consistent voting bloc, black women and black families. You see, democracy only works when people have the right and the ability to participate in civic engagement. Right now, we see pieces of legislation like the Save America Act intended to be passed to pass racist legislation to advance concerted efforts to compress and suppress the black vote. In closing, my friends, NCNW will continue to stand with the leadership here, with the Divine Nine, with faith leaders, and with the CBC to ensure that we reach our nearly 3 million men and women on college campuses, in faith houses, and in institutions across this country. We remain committed, unified, and self-reliant to know that the black community is a standing part of American history. The question is, are you ready to deal with this force? We're ready.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to acknowledge history in our present in one of our two black women senators, Lisa Blunt Rochester. This is part of what we've been talking about today, what it means to be black people and be able to have a choice in who leads us and know and recognize that the leaders we are with, standing with, by, and for, are representing the things that our communities need and that, frankly, every American needs. And that is what Black history represents. I am privileged to lead the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, which is 76 years old this year. Founded by black leaders like the NAACP and the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, as well as Jewish leaders. Why do I say that is important to recognize when we are saying we will celebrate our history? It's because we are the most diverse coalition in the nation, Black legacy, and we look like America. So what we say when we say we will not be iced out, we will not be iced out by choices to spend $75 billion in 1 year to have a private army that violates our rights, that tells our children that despite their birthright, what we fought as civil rights for as black people to be recognized as citizenship, as our citizenship, that you can't require us to carry a passport. That when we understand that a Gainesville 8th grader, a black child who had to go testify in a hearing about how viciously he was bullied using the N-word complaining about the racist bullying, and not one response, including from the Department of Education, where we fought as a community to ensure that every child could file a complaint and ensure they couldn't get bullied. But what happens when he gets called the N-word again? He gets disciplined and loses 3 days in school, and the kids who bully him don't have any consequence. But that same Department of Education is now threatening higher education for trying to understand how to get college students to vote. Civic participation. This is about how this administration is using the tools we built as a black community to ensure that all of our people are protected against our very rights to be. And we will not be iced out. So when we know and hear that Pam Bondi is testifying about Epstein, we also understand that rather than bringing investigations on killings of people based on how they look or who they are, that she would rather turn prosecutors where? To go after protesters rather than abusers. To go where? To Fulton County, Georgia, where 43% of voters are black, to try to steal our voter data. So when we say we will not be iced out, is because our black future will be authored by us. Thank you.
And we're going to now hear from Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant.
Good afternoon. As was said, my name is Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, International President and CEO of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and Chairwoman of the Council of Presidents for the Divine Nine, the National Panhellenic Council. It is an honor to join here today as we convene for this very important discussion, anchored by leaders whose commitment to public service continues to move our nation forward. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, thank you as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and past chairs Horsford and Beatty and all members of the Congressional Black Caucus who are here with our civil rights leaders, faith leaders, and my fellow presidents of the Divine Nine. I'm especially encouraged by the collaborative spirit that anchors today's discussion. Our nation faces serious and complex issues: economic inequity, threats to voting rights, disparity in healthcare, education, and housing, and the urgent need to prepare our communities for a rapidly changing technological landscape. These challenges require clarity, courage, and unity of purpose. As a group of nonpartisan organizations, unity is something that our community knows well because we have modeled it for generations. Through our institutions, our leadership, and our collective action, our shining example is the legacy of the enduring impact of the National Panhellenic Council. For more than a century, the 9 Black Greek-lettered organizations have been driving forces in shaping Black excellence through civic engagement and the historical progress that we've seen in this country. Through our scholarship, our activism, and our service, as well as leadership development, the NPHC has produced generations of change makers who have transformed our communities and country. Among us, we have centuries of strategic service, political advocacy, and transformational leadership. Over 2 million of us in our communities are a reflection of what America really looks like, uplifting the communities that we serve. Our members understand this conversation is not just about Democrats or Republicans. It's about a democracy that is very fragile, and it should be the home of the free and the land of the brave for all people, not just some. There are millions of families across the nation today who don't know where their next paycheck is coming from and can't pay for child care, student loan debt, or the rent care that they need for health. When Mississippi declared a public health emergency for infant mortality, we were there. When members of our community navigated daunting reentry back into their neighborhoods after incarceration, we were there. When brilliant students were sidelined by a lack of scholarship funding, we were there. When families in our communities face the silent crisis of food insecurity and displacement, we are there. These communities and our contributions remind us that progress is not accidental. It's organized, intentional, and rooted in service and activism. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated uplifted the spirit of advocacy and intellectual leadership through giants like their member, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., pioneering civil rights. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority has led groundbreaking initiatives in education, health, and global services, and through leaders like our past Vice President Kamala Harris. Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated has long championed membership, achievement, and community empowerment, ensuring black men have pathways to success. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity has advocated scholarship and social justice activism through courageous leadership like members like Honorable James Clyburn. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated marched into history in 1913 and remained on the front line of political engagement and social action, from leaders like Mary McLeod Bethune to our chair of the CBC, Yvette Clarke. Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated established a model of brotherhood and community service, deeply intertwined with civic responsibility and social progress, with members like John Lewis. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated pioneered community-focused service, maternal health advocacy, youth development programs, and strengthened families, from members like Clara Luper to voices like present-day Congresswoman Sidney Kamlarga-Dove. Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority has elevated public service and education access, building global impact through programs that empower women, children, and family. And Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated emerged during the civil rights movement, modeling progressive activism and the importance of meeting community needs and innovation and courage. The bottom line, D9 Stronger Together is more than a hashtag or a trendy term. It is what we do, who we are. We will not be silent, and we will continue to lead.
Let me ask if there are any questions from the press. Freedom, are you around? So we can get all of these questions in.
Hi, Cheyenne Bandy with Politico. Just two questions, if possible. One, we heard last week from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt say that she can't guarantee that ICE will not be at polling places come November. Just wanted to see what reaction could be to that and what is being put in place to potentially protect voters who maybe are concerned about police presence near their polling places. And then two, we talked a lot today about the unemployment rate for Black Americans, which we know is especially disproportionately affecting Black women. Any news on how the CBC is hoping to counter this unemployment crisis our community is facing?
Very well. Let me have Derek Johnson, President and CEO of the NAACP, speak to your first question.
Great question as it relates to ICE. At ACP, along with our partners, we are prepared to file lawsuits. Voter intimidation is still on the books. It is illegal. We're also going to be working with the CBC and members of both the House and the Senate in the negotiation to ensure that ICE presence at the polling place will be prohibited on a condition of their funding. It is unprecedented to allow an agency that are seeking civil penalties against individuals to now pursue courses of actions to criminalize individuals or go beyond their charge. Citizens of this country should not be accosted by ICE because they have no authority. Citizens of this country still have the protection of a Constitution, particularly the Fourth Amendment searches and seizures. Citizens of this country are not subject to ICE intimidation, and our elections are only for citizens of this country. There are no individuals who are the target, so to speak, of ICE who will be voting, because there's no history of undocumented individuals voting in our elections, so it should not be tolerated in this country.
Can you repeat your second question again? Yes, just what are leaders doing to address the unemployment and economic crisis that our community is facing?
And I'll speak specifically to your question around Black women, because we're close at this point, almost 8% unemployment for Black women. NCNW is taking a special focus here, because what we found is that economic engagement for Black women is connected to their health care, connected to their access to groceries, et cetera. This is a long-term challenge that we have seen. We have focused primarily on education and advocacy. Our first plan was called Project Rise. We decided to focus on resources for investments, savings, and economic empowerment. And the reason that we did that is that we found with this last government shutdown, with the changes to DEI, we saw over 300,000 Black women affected in this process. Our education plan was to travel the country and provide financial literacy, support with partners with banks to be able to find capital access for families. The last thing was our job fair. And the reason why we had to focus here is because many black women are qualified. We are the fastest growing black business owners in this country. Right now, when you look at access to capital, black women fare terribly. And what we have found is our ability as an organization to partner with banks, to partner with organizations like the Urban League on the ground, we've been able to identify new funding resources for black women. The last thing I'll say is this. This is where the ballot box makes a difference. Our ability to connect finance to voting, finance to be able to feeding our families is connected to who is in office. We are calling on our legislative leaders, regardless of your party, to focus on the people. And the people need our government officials to redefine their financial policies and economic investments in those communities that have done the work. We are a community that is committed to not only our civic engagement, but to our financial engagement.
I want to add something to this. First of all, what caused it? What caused? We were at 4.3% black unemployment in 2023. The lowest black unemployment in American history. What caused it? Three things. Tariff, tax, chaos was a causal factor in the impact on unemployment and the economy and has affected black America deeply. Number two, the anti-DE&I executive orders and the administration squeezing and extorting American corporations through its regulatory power. You want a deal approved, you've got to, quote, get rid of your diversity programs. That was a causal factor. The third causal factor was the big, ugly bill. So we are going to all do job fairs, entrepreneurship, and we're going to fight and fight and fight to survive. But if you want to ask me, how do you reverse this? It's going to take, one, the Supreme Court stepping up and invalidating these tariffs as an abuse of presidential power. Number two, an election result that sends a message to the business leaders in America to restore their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also an election and a political lineup that says, let's repeal and replace the big, ugly bill. 250,000 plus federal workers, many in this city, maybe a third to 40% African American, were laid off for no reason whatsoever other than an assault by Trumpism and Dogeism. So we got to confront what caused the pain we face if we are going to confront. None of this was going to happen if the policies that began to take place in January of 2025 had not come to fruition. This is what is important. This is no business cycle. This is no, it was factors with respect to the balance of trade with China, negotiations with the European Union. This was intentional damage to the American economy that has impacted black people, black women, and all Americans across the board. I want to be clear. We want to be clear that it was caused, it was intentional, and the policies have created the pain.
Good afternoon. I'm Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester, and I was not scheduled to be here. Don't have any remarks, but I did want to represent the members of the Senate, and also just to answer, also to follow up on that last question, because as a former Secretary of Labor of Delaware, jobs are a priority. They are a key. And so in addition to those things that were mentioned, we also know that we've got to be concerned about artificial intelligence and it having an impact on the workforce. And so that's one of the things that we're working very closely on as well. And it having an impact on the workforce. And so that's one of the things that we're working very closely on as well. And I just want to echo everything that has already been said. I think it's important, especially in this moment, as we celebrate, honor Black history, that we not become history. And I think part of the goal is just to erase us and make us history. And so this collective is representative of the fact that we have been through, we will go through, and we will overcome this moment. And so, again, in the absence of our chairwoman from the CBC, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. People will be available for questions, but thank you so much to these heroes, sheroes, and power brokers and family. That's right. The family. Thank you.
Okay. Lisa Blunt Rochester, Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester. Okay. Couple things here. One, I need to, Mark Morial said the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans was at 4.3% in 2023 under Biden. It was actually 4.8%. I need to correct that. I know he probably didn't have it right in front of him, but I want to make sure we're accurate with this. If we look at this piece here from CNN, because I went and pulled this up. I've talked about this before. Fact check: Biden, not Trump, has the record lows for unemployment, for Black unemployment. Let's look at this. Fact check: Biden, not Trump, has the record lows for Black unemployment and poverty. Now, Donald Trump will lie and say he had the greatest economy for Black people and he had this and had that. Also, keep in mind, there was $17 billion that was allocated to HBCUs under Biden-Harris, which is a record amount of funding. Okay, so this is by Daniel Dale, CNN. Daniel Dale is a fact checker at CNN. He does really, really good work. He did the fact checking for the facts from Trump's State of the Union address that I showed you at the beginning of this broadcast. This right here is from June 16, 2024. Okay, Trump said President Joe Biden has done nothing for you except talk. Okay, so Donald Trump on Saturday in June 2024 was speaking at a predominantly Black church in Detroit. And he lied and said that, quote, we achieved the lowest African-American unemployment rate and the lowest African-American poverty rate ever recorded, okay, during his 4 years in office. That's, okay, facts first. Trump's claims about having the lowest Black unemployment rate and poverty rate ever recorded were true when he made them before Biden took office, okay? But they are not true today. Both of the record lows set during Trump's presidency were surpassed by new record lows during Biden's presidency. Okay. But Trump made this statement here in June 2024. It was false when he made that statement. Okay. Because this was the few months before the 2024 election. record black unemployment in 2023 under Biden. The record low for black or African American unemployment rate was 4.8% in April 2023 under the Biden-Harris administration. Under the Biden-Harris administration. Okay. So contrary to what Black MAGA would tell you, contrary to what those black idiot White House Black History Month celebrations just happened a few days ago. Now, when Mark Morio made those statements, keep in mind that press conference I showed you, that's from Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. So that was before the White House held their mockery of a Black History Month celebration. Okay. All right. So the 4.8% under Biden-Harris, April 2023, lowest black unemployment rate since they have been keeping track of the unemployment rate by race, which goes back to 1972. Now, that beat the Trump era low that was a record at the time of 5.3% in August 2019 and September 2019. But keep in mind, Donald Trump did not build a great economy. He inherited a great economy from the Obama-Biden administration, and there was 75 consecutive months of private sector job growth under Obama-Biden, and when they left office, it was a 4.7% unemployment rate overall. Now, okay, so read this. Now, black poverty, record low set in 2022 under Biden. The record low in the official poverty rate for black individuals, 17.1%, was set under the Biden-Harris administration in 2022, the most recent year for which the data is available at the time this report came out, this article came out. Under Trump, the lowest official poverty rate for black individuals was then a record 18.8% in 2019. It dropped even lower under Biden-Harris. But once again, keep in mind, Donald Trump did not build a great economy. He inherited one from Obama-Biden. He just wrecked the economy when he mishandled the COVID crisis, the pandemic. Okay. The Biden-Harris administration also holds the record low 11.3% for black individual poverty under the supplemental poverty measure. Okay, so read the rest of this here. Okay, but just more lies coming from Donald Trump that he tells over and over again. And he fools a lot of people with these lies. Okay, he fools a lot of people with these lies because he's so good at lying. He's had a lot of practice at it. All right, now, this piece here, I've shown this before, and I'm not going to get deep into it for the sake of time because I have to get out of here. I have things to do. But this deals with what was accomplished under the Biden-Harris administration, policies that benefited African Americans. And if you did something as simple as Google, how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped black people or helped the black community or something like that, this is one of the things that's going to come up. This is originally at whitehouse.gov. It was up during the Biden-Harris administration, and they had different versions of it. They added to it every 6 to 12 months. They added to it. The first version came out October 2021. This one here is from February 6, 2024. Fact sheet: the Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for black Americans and communities across the country. So it goes through and walks you through all these policies. Black Americans are starting new businesses, creating jobs, buying homes, and taking advantage of increased education opportunities at historic rates, contributing to a 60% increase in wealth compared to before the pandemic. Yeah, we saw African American household, the median household net worth for African Americans increased by about 60% under the Biden-Harris administration. So they go through and talk about policies like the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, et cetera. They take you through 2.6 million jobs went to African American workers, okay, under Biden-Harris, and achieved the lowest Black unemployment rate on record and the lowest gap between Black and white unemployment on record. Help Black families build wealth. Black wealth is up 60% relative to the pre-pandemic levels, the largest increase on record. Cut in half the number of Black children living in poverty in 2021 through the American Rescue Plan's child tax credit expansion. This expansion provided breathing room to families of over 9 million Black children, began reversing decades of infrastructure divestment, including $4 billion to reconnect communities that were previously cut off from economic opportunities by building needed transportation infrastructure in underserved communities, including Black communities. That dealt with expressways running through African-American communities, destroying them. 1952 and 1956 U.S. Interstate Highway Acts, connecting an estimated 5.5 million Black households to affordable high-speed internet through the Affordable Connectivity Program, closing the digital divide for millions of Black families. You had a record 16 million new business applications that have been filed, and the share of Black households owning a business has more than doubled. So they take you through all this, breaking this down, what was accomplished under the Biden-Harris administration. Achieved the fastest creation rate of Black-owned businesses in nearly 30 years, and more than doubled the share of Black business owners from 2019 to 2022. Okay. They talk about farmers, help more than 37,000 farmers and ranchers who were in financial distress, including Black farmers and ranchers, stay on their farms and keep farming, thanks to resources provided through the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act allocated $3.1 billion for the Department of Agriculture to provide relief for distressed borrowers with at-risk agricultural operations with outstanding direct or guaranteed Farm Service Agency loans. USDA has provided over $2 billion in counting and timely assistance. They talk about the CHIPS Act, et cetera. So they walk you through this. Increasing access to housing and rooting out discrimination in the housing market for Black communities. Okay, so read through all this. Okay, I don't have time to go through all this. I've gone through this before on my show. Counseling student loan debt, not as much as we wanted, but some of that did include African Americans. It was close to about $150 billion in total in student loan debt. That's after Biden's executive order to discharge student loan debt was struck down by the Supreme Court. We know $17 billion, a total of $17 billion approximately went to HBCUs. Okay. It's actually 17 billion. There's documentation on that. Okay, we see the expansion of the Affordable Health Care Act, et cetera. Improve health outcomes for Black families and communities. So read through the rest of this. I don't have time to go through all of it. Now, a lot of these gains are being attacked right now or totally reversed under the Trump administration. So once again, the name of this document, fact sheet the Biden-Harris administration advances equity. Fact sheet: the Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunities for Black Americans and communities across the country. So check that out. And that's at whitehouse.gov. It's archived now. Now it's at bidenwhitehouse.gov, bidenwhitehouse.archives.gov. It was originally at whitehouse.gov. Okay, lastly, I just want to show you this here, and you can read it. This is from the NAACP. This deals with State of the Black Union. February 23rd, 2026, State of the Black Union. Current state of Black America. Talk about the first year of the Trump administration. All right, let's look at this. I'm just going to look at the highlights. Trump is making America sicker. So they talk about the Trump administration's attack on health care access are making is making America sicker, especially African American communities. Failure to extend Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. Okay. Failure to extend the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits will result in 170,000 Black adults will lose health care coverage across 10 major metro cities. Failure to extend the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits will result in 170,000 plus African Americans losing health care coverage across 10 major metro areas. Cuts to and refusing to expand Medicaid are reducing families to are forcing families to choose between necessities and medical care. Rural hospitals are closing. Maternal care deserts are expanding, and Black women, particularly in the South, are bearing the brunt of restrictive reproductive health policies. Okay. So then they talk about Trump is burning the country. The administration is accelerating fossil fuel expansion and fast tracking dirty data centers into Black and frontline communities while gutting agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency, FEMA, and NOAA, the National Oceanic Administration. The result, higher utility bills across the country because utility costs are up about 13%. Worse air quality, greater exposure to floods and fires, and fewer federal troops to respond to disasters. Black communities are paying more while breathing more pollution. We're fighting dirty data centers, organizing and building tools like Power in the Storm, helping communities prepare for disasters and hold polluters accountable. Trump is breaking the economy. The Trump economy is straining Black families. Black unemployment rate is at 7.2%. 7.2, you'll see 7.2% to 7.4%. Okay, it peaked at 8.3% in late 2025. High inflation, rising housing and food costs, mass layoffs, stagnant wages, and crushing student debt are eroding economic security, especially for the 300,000 plus Black women who've lost their job. Rollbacks of fair housing, consumer protection, and DEI policies are reversing hard-won gains. In response, we've launched the Black Consumer Advisory to leverage $1.7 trillion in Black buying power and are supporting workers through job fairs and economic advocacy. Okay, attacks on democracy, etc. Okay, so read the rest of this. This is from the NAACP. People ask, what's the NAACP doing? You can also donate to them as well. They have that up there. State of the Black Union, February 23rd, 2026. You can join NAACP, has information here. This is at their website, naacp.org. The current state of Black America. All right. So that's going to do it for this extended broadcast. I'm here longer than I thought I was going to be. Be sure to visit my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Now, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network as well. We definitely need your support. $, the AHN show through Cash App and through paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the work, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. And I'm working on getting back on broadcast radio. So that's going to be an investment as well. But visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information right on the page. You can support us. Okay, so if you now have the information about my online history class Sundays, African empires, the Moors and the transatlantic slave trade, 5000 BC to 1800 AD. That's going to start up Sunday, March 1st, 2026. Information here, PayPal, Cash App, $, the AHN show is my Cash App tag. Here's our QR code, $, the AHN show through Cash App, and then through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. All right, so this helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, finance the research, etc. And it helped me expand and get back on the radio as well. You have to get out of here. Watch me Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Thursday morning, 6 a.m., I'll be on Carl Nelson's show. That's the 26th, February 26th, 2026. Carl Nelson show, WOLB out of Baltimore. And then Friday, I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm a historian and national political commentator. So you see me on Roland Martin Unfiltered every Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as a panelist providing historical and political analysis. In that press conference that you saw Stacey N. Grant, Dr. Stacey N. Grant, National President of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, my sisters. So I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Give a shout out to the Sigmas and the Zetas and the whole D9 family as well. Remember, right now is correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time.